We are recording. So how can I help you today?
Hello, Amy.
Hello.
So I have been in the process of going through a separation and now a divorce. And I realized that there was a lot of changes in my life that had to happen. It was not easy, but it did feel like a very generational thing that needed to be ended. But there's also been struggles of like, well, shoot, am I doing the right thing? And I guess in some ways I'd like to hear from some of those I know who have gone before, who have gone through this and didn't make the choices that I did. It's confirmation to me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I also want the guidance that they can give me of being out on my own again.
Yeah. It's interesting because I see there's a lot of women in your lineage that are eager to come forward, but actually I see them standing behind your spirit guide.
Okay.
Because your spirit guides really want to be the one to have this
Yes.
conversation for now.
Sure.
And they want to address, and I see like aunts and grandmothers like smiling at me. They want to address the idea that they would have chosen differently.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that it's not true, because it's mostly true. But the vast majority of them are shaking their heads at me and saying, we wouldn't have chosen differently if we were her.
Okay.
So you get to just put that story down.
Sure.
And know that you have the support of everybody on the other side. Like I'm seeing at least tens of women all looking at me and smiling and saying that you have their full support.
Okay.
And what collectively they're also giving me is this independence is so necessary for you.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean that you're going to be alone. It's an independence from that partner and that dynamic of a relationship.
Okay.
And that whatever partners you may have in the future, that you will have a different level of independence within those relationships.
I got it.
And it's interesting. It's like they're showing me, it's almost like a Venn diagram of within your marriage, where was their independence and where was their dependence or interdependence. And it's like they were just in some of the wrong places.
Yeah.
There were areas where you were being independent where having a partner would have been really good. And then there were areas where like you didn't need somebody in their opinion, but you had it. And so it's like finding the right balance and in the right places. I literally feel like they show me like your experience of your marriage, and it's, you know how like when you put out like a fire, they have those like fire blankets and you like put the blanket on top of the fire and it smushes it.
Yeah.
It's like you're the fire and your marriage was just that blanket.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's no shame on you or on your partner now, divorced husband. Like it's no shame on any of that. It's just, it was time to move on. So they're just giving you all of that so that you can rest assured there's no judgment. This was the right decision for all involved. And you knew that already, but hearing it from them, they say was important.
Yeah, it is.
So advice in terms of moving forward, they want you to be really focused on who you are independently, and it only invite in for the time being, like this will change where like there will be a day in the future where it's 50-50. But for now, it's like you're an independent person who's a goddess, and we're only going to invite men who want to worship at your feet.
Sure.
And, I say that, tongue in cheek, because we don't really want to invite somebody who's going to come in and worship and be obsessed with you. But there's a little bit of that I know who I am now, and I'm willing to be seen for who I am.
Yes.
I'm not willing to put the blanket on my own fire anymore.
Yes. I get
Yeah. And there is a bigness about this. It's like literally they're wanting me, like I'm feeling like my shoulders expand. I'm sitting up taller. It's like I want to take over the whole room that I'm sitting in, and they're wanting you to have allowing your energy to be bigger.
Okay.
You are a very powerful, energetic person, and I think you know that because you are very intuitively connected. But it's like they're wanting you to allow yourself to embody that power.
Okay.
And it's interesting because when they were showing me that you're a powerful person, I was kind of turning to them and sort of going, well, is she like a channel? Is she a healer? Like when we think of the really connected, intuitive people, like what do we think of? And I was seeing you as, it's like a healer, but it's almost like an electronic engineer. Like I'm seeing you manipulate energy from a very electrically charged place. Like, whereas I see other people that would manipulate energy, it would be like from a healing point of view. With yours, it's a much more creative and like a manifestation point of view.
Interesting. I've been trying to figure out what to do with this for a while, and it's become more so in the past month or so.
Yeah. Have you ever seen those things where like they'll put someone will put an object like on top of their hand or on a table or something, and then with their other hand they'll just whoosh at the object, but inches above it.
Yeah.
And then eventually the object falls off the table, even though nobody's touched it and the hand is inches away. Have you ever seen that sort of thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. I'm seeing you doing that sort of work.
That makes sense.
Not necessarily like forever, but it's like helping you tune in and develop that sense of power that you have within you.
Yeah. I do. Yeah. I get that.
Yeah.
I was discussing telekinesis with someone last month.
Oh, well, good. That's why the word was so
I was literally feeling more energy for the first, like, massive amounts of energy. I could feel other people's energies. But I'd never been able to do that before up until I'd had a therapy session. And then I forgave a few different things. And then it was like, whoosh, where did this come from that I can feel all these people's energies? And I'm not sure.
You said something so profound there. I have to say this.
Okay.
Forgiveness is like the number one tool of the intuitive.
Okay.
And so because this is for the podcast, I just have to share that because it's such a key piece of information. I mean, it is.
I can't explain it. I've told my therapist about it, and another doctor that I had, we decided to change one of my medications to see, hey, is this going to change that? Because I have a thyroid medication that I've been on for 3 years, and he's like, well, let's lower that down and see if that changes anything. And it did. It made me, okay, now I'm not like feeling like I'm vibrating at this high energy anymore. But I don't know, was I vibrating at that high energy for a long time? I don't think there really was. Maybe 3 months, and it just went to like the top, and I almost felt like, oh my gosh. I know other people in my life who have ADHD. I know other people who have bipolar disease, and live with that, and they vibrate so high. And I've been around them when they're manic, and I couldn't feel them in the past. I was feeling people like that, and I was like, oh my dear God, this is like crazy that I can feel your energy. And I would have to come back home and be like, whew, I need that off of me. So I needed to I set up more boundaries to be able to try to, if I'm absorbing that, squeeze that out of me, get that out of me, setting up my space. Any suggestions on that?
Yes. Part of the reason why they want you to play with telekinesis is because whether consciously or unconsciously, a lot of your work as an intuitive person has been that of the sponge, where it's like you've tuned into other people and you've gotten insights and maybe you've gotten prophetic dreams, that sort of thing. but it's all from tuning into other people. And so the more you can start to play with making things happen, that's going to be a really fun way to set up boundaries.
Okay.
It's sort of interesting because like we think that the boundary is all about between us and the other person and setting up a wall, but the boundary is more with ourselves. And this is your guides talking. This is not me talking. So your guides are saying that as you learn how much of a creator you are, you're going to find other people's experience far less interesting.
Yeah.
And so just intuitively, it's like the itch that you have to be spiritually connected, you're going to be meeting that itch somewhere else. And then when it comes over to the friend that's bipolar, that's manic, or whatever, you're going to be much more aware of like, oh, I'm tuning into them. And sometimes you'll choose to feel that connection because it feels like intimacy. And sometimes you'll be like, I don't need that. And so the boundary is much more about you deciding whether or not you're interested in having that vibrational connection.
Okay.
They say you've relied on that kind of the experience of being a sponge. You've relied on that sponge experience for so long because that was your greatest intuitive gift, is that you could read other people. And so it's like by being in touch with other people, it helps you feel in touch with spirit or divine energy. Yeah. And now it's like, okay, but why don't you just get in touch with divine energy and let other people be other people?
I get it. Sure.
Yeah.
It feels selfish in a way, though. I'm like, well, but wait, how is this helping anyone else? Well, it's what it helps me.
Yes.
Figure out my own journey of what I am supposed to be here for. And I suppose because I've always been so driven to help others. Well, I wasn't always. That shifted somewhere when I was like almost 20.
It's going to feel selfish at first, but know that this is not the end game. Right. And it's funny, they're showing me what they were showing me before, like where I was seeing you manipulate energy, and it almost looked like you were welding, like it was like sparks. And now I'm realizing, oh, that's also like the fire, so that's a theme here. But it's like, let's say that you're going to go and you're going to do telekinesis and you're going to focus on manifestation and you're going to focus on creating energy in the world, in your life, etc.
Okay.
Then when it comes time, when there's a divine opportunity, a divine match for you to help people, then you're going to bring a real world skill to the table that has a different impact than just being able to really relate and make them feel seen and valued.
Okay.
Which is not, they're not trying to belittle that. Like there's other people that are energetically codependent that can feel what other people are feeling, but don't validate them.
Okay.
Whereas with you, when you are experiencing somebody else's emotions, you reflect it back to them and they feel seen and understood in a different way.
Yes.
So the guys just want to be very clear that what you have is a gift and is being helpful. And if you can start to focus on your own divine expression and the way that you can manifest that in the world, and whether that's like, oh, I just made a flower bloom because I stood over it and rubbed my hands together, whatever, or whether that's, oh, I manifested $5 for my afternoon coffee, then you're going to have this whole other more powerful skill set to bring to the table.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And also, this is also just about that independence. It's so funny that we're coming back here. We were there with relationships and now we're here with your energetic work. It's it's about creating independence from others and then being with others at your choosing.
Yes.
You're beholden to no one.
Yes.
We could say maybe a little bit to your children in that sort of way, but
I see that.
that's a very, that's the only obligation. You're obligated, but you're not even beholden.
I'm working on a healthy, secure attachment with both of them. I'm working on that. I know I have it with one, and the other one I did not. But I think I don't think she could from a child. As a child, she was inconsolable. It was difficult.
Yeah, there's a lot of past life stuff with her.
Okay.
Let me see. Some of the past life stuff, your soul was involved, but much of it was not. It was just she brought some stuff in this lifetime to heal,
Okay.
because she's with you.
Yes.
And a lot of it, I hate to say, she's not going to heal. Some of the stuff she's not going to heal till she's like in her 40s.
Okay.
Not all of it, but some of it. So this is a long haul game with her past life stuff.
I'm patient. She's got to do the work, and I'm here to be supportive because I know that some people in our lives are very dismissive of my spirituality, and
Yeah.
the youngest, she gets it, if anything, and the older one, she is the one who was inconsolable as a baby, and I was like, oh my gosh, what do I do? And so I did the opposite with the next one. If anything, the meet the Fockers. I Fockerized the second one, and she seemed much more well adjusted. And I'm like, well, I'm glad I didn't listen to everybody else about it this time. But I kind of blamed myself and being, well, I did what they told me to the first one, and even when I would try to hold her and hug her and rock her and do all of that, she was still inconsolable.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, I have to walk away from her. At times I had to just put her in her sling, put her in her crib, and walk away, and do what I could to not lose my hearing, the screaming. And the second one was so different and so easy. It was like, maybe it wasn't me.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. If you could do some releasing work around that,
The guilt that I felt.
the guilt that you felt and the story that you have
Okay.
about her being inconsolable.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I think it makes her feel guilty, like she was a problem baby, and it wasn't that. I just explained to her, I tried to love you and tried to console you, and you would just cry.
yeah.
And, yeah. I tried to make her not feel that it makes her any more unlovable than the other one, or that because she was a more difficult baby, and it's so hard because then it's like, well, I don't. You're gonna have, maybe you'll have kids someday, and I've been told if I was the first, I've been the last, because I was like that also as a baby. I cried a lot, and
Yeah.
my mom would say, oh yeah, a little bit of karma there. But, yeah.
Well, it feels to me like she carries that story with her.
Okay. I'll work on that.
There's some version of there's something wrong with me, or I'm bad, or I'm hard to be with, or there's some belief that she has, and I can't identify it. I don't want to get into her energy field, but there's some belief that she carries with her.
Okay.
Where if we could reframe it and say, like, your body must have been so uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Like,
Yep.
life was hard for you at that phase, and I did the best I could, and I'm sorry I couldn't make it better.
Yep.
Yeah.
Her GI distress got better, and she was calmer when we figured more of the GI upset that she was
I was going to ask you if it was reflux, because that was my yep, I had that, but then I was like
reflux and constipation both.
Oh.
Like finding one thing versus another, and then by the time she was 6-7 months old, she was a little bit better. Once we put her on like gas drops and different formula, all these different things. We tried so many things.
Yeah, it's so hard. It's funny how old people will be like, oh, to be young again. And I look at kids and I go, at what point was it easy? Like, when was young easy? It's just as hard being a kid. Harder. We don't, Bless her heart. So so just work on reframing that for her.
Okay.
Where instead of saying like, and you just cried, it's like, and your body was uncomfortable, or things were hard, and I felt helpless. Yeah.
Rather than you were difficult. Yeah, I see the reframing. Yeah.
Right. And the thing about all babies, but especially sensitive babies, is that it is hard to come down and be human and then fall into the illusion that we are separate from God.
Mm.
So GI distress or not, it makes sense that there are some tears.
Yes.
So I just want to say that so we can all have compassion for each other, at any age. It just makes sense that there are some tears because we all fall into this illusion that we're separate from God, that we are not loved, that we are not lovable in some form or fashion.
But we're all one. My younger one, we were listening to Within You, Without You from the Beatles.
Okay.
And the lyrics of that basically explain that we are all one. And she was like, Mom, this is it. This is the key. She pointed it out to me, and I was looking at it. I'm like, wow, okay. That's profound. You just realized that already at your age.
That is profound.
And yeah, she was telling me how she listens to that and she could imagine what she would do, like if she created like a video for that and the beautiful colors and like all the things that she would do if, to go along with that song. That's how her creative mind works. So I appreciate that I get that that she's able to talk to me and I implore her and empower her to explore her creativity because I know she'll be creative someday. She's trying to figure out what she wants to do,
Yeah.
Because she's creative.
Well, and I want to say, even with it's the oldest that had the GI distress and the past life stuff, correct?
Yes.
I think she's a lot more sensitive than she knows or than she lets on.
I think she is too.
She, like, I even think if we're talking gastric distress, that's literally what we're processing. We're processing what we're taking in. And I think she's just a very sensitive person.
Yes.
Who probably has quite a profound spiritual connection, but figured out pretty early on what was acceptable and what wasn't.
Yeah.
And it seems to me that whoever was around her, the majority of people around her, probably would not have taken kindly to communicating with something unseen.
Sure.
Like literally, I'm getting an image of she's in a crib and I see like a grandparent or maybe even a pet, but I see a loved one that's passed on in the room with her.
Okay.
And then I see an alive and well family member coming in and ignoring the loved one that's passed on. And it's like she realizes that they don't communicate. And it's distressing for her.
Okay.
Because it's so natural for her. And it's like, even though no one has said there's no such thing as dead people, you know what I mean? There's no such thing as ghosts. No one said anything like that to this like 3-month-old baby or whatever. It's like she's figuring out already who's allowed to exist.
Oh, I get it. Okay.
And it's like distressing for her. So it's so subconscious and buried inside of her. But I wouldn't be super shocked if she became, hippy dippy woo woo, so to speak, at some point in her life.
She knows, all the ghost hunters and all those kind of TV shows came on when she was quite young, and I would watch some of them when she was little, and then I had to start shielding her a little bit. She loved those, though. Absolutely loved them. Versus the younger one, who actively would tell me about seeing spirits and things like that. She absolutely hates those kind of shows.
I do too.
I don't like them as much. There's one that I like. I'm not going to say what it was, but it's the one where they are very respectful, because they like to go and try to figure out why are you here and how can we help you, basically thinking of them as humans most of the time. And they also have a psychic who works with them, and I appreciate that his sense it's the same. He's on the same page with them, as far as the investigators. It's not about scaring. It's not about all of that. It's about the unseen world that has always existed in my mind. That was also, people were like, okay, don't be talking about that because, yeah, not everybody's going to accept that. And
Right.
so I know I started shutting it down to a degree too. Like, well, why do I know about this stuff? Why did I know that when I shouldn't? When I would have premonitions. And then I don't
Mm-hmm.
tell people about it because, well, with your religious upbringing, you don't talk about that. That's,
Right.
could be, this or that, or that could be devils or demons or whatever you want to say.
Yeah.
But it was always natural to me to know that there is an afterlife or there's another side of the world here that we cannot see. But I suppose when my kids were little babies, I didn't want to sit and discuss that with them. They're too little for that, but I could at least just, it didn't shock me when the youngest one told me what she was seeing,
Right.
The older one, I figured, oh gosh, maybe I'm scaring her too much if I watch these shows. I better not let her. And then she'd try and watch them when when I wasn't around. She'd be like, I want to watch this though. And I'm like, why? Don't get too into the scary tactic, the scare tactic.
Right. The scary part. Right. Yeah, that's why I don't like them. Like, I have no problem with dead people.
Right.
Just
Exactly.
but I don't find them scary.
I don't either.
Yeah.
That's not how I think of them. And I think there are too many people who do think of them that way.
Right. Right.
I think of them an extension of their soul that just moved on to the next realm that we can't see. I can't see them. I can still sense them, or they come across me one way or another. And it creeps me out when when I realize that, oh, yep, that's a big old sign, like multiple in a row. Okay, I'll figure out what I need to do with that. But at least I know I have some friends who are accepting of that, and I appreciate that. So it's the standpoint of, I've at least told my daughters, feel free to come to me and talk about this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm an open, person for them to come and talk about that. Even if,
Yeah.
their dad will never get that side, and he never got that about me. That was part of this. I admit that I wish I could have helped him understand better, but I know that I can't make someone else. You take the woo-woo out of it,
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It feels very much to me like part of the reason your daughters chose you as their mom is for the possibility, the option to maintain a spiritual connection in this lifetime. It doesn't mean they'll choose it, but they wanted to have the option.
Okay.
And with is this your oldest daughter? I feel like I'm I'm thinking they're talking about your oldest daughter, but they're telling me this is your youngest daughter because wanted to go back to your oldest daughter's past life stuff because I wanted to tell you, like, you don't need to go see a past life hypnotherapist or anything. Like, her healing's going to occur naturally. But there's something about safety with your youngest daughter.
Yes.
That they want to just bring up also as past life that I sense that you all are already doing something, like you're talking to her energetically about boundaries or about maybe talking to her spirit guides. Like, there's something that you're doing with her already around safety.
Is this physical safety or psychic, mental? Because I do both, actually.
Yeah, it's tricky. It is tricky because it's almost like the more you talk about it, at first it makes her feel more safe. It makes her feel like she has a toolkit, but then it makes her feel less safe. Like there really is something to be scared of.
Yeah. Yes.
It's so tricky. So they want to. There's some sort of a book that I haven't read that I don't know the name of because they're showing me a book, but I can't see it.
Okay.
And I can't. I mean, I can see that it's a book, but I can't see the name or the title. But there's some sort of a book about the way the universe works energetically. It might be like, I don't think it's a Reiki book. but I do feel like it might be like an Eden energy medicine, or I think it's like an energetic book and about just like the way the universe works.
Okay.
Th- yeah, it because there really is nothing to be afraid of.
Right. I get it. I get all of that.
Yeah,
Okay.
and that doesn't mean, don't buckle your seatbelt,
Right.
but
She has a black belt for a reason.
yeah, okay,
And I processed that as if we wanted to make sure she was able to self-defend.
right,
Even though she was like, okay, I'm done now and be done now. I'm like, no, it's like you to continue. And then like, it wasn't out of me wanting to, like I actually told her this weekend. Because I processed this and I was like, it wasn't me wanting to be able to brag about you, because I don't just routinely tell people, yeah, my youngest has a black belt. She had been hurt, and we wanted to make sure that she could defend herself, because we felt as parents we had let her down,
right,
and we know that we cannot always be there with her. So at least if we empower her to get the protection that she can have herself, then maybe, But on the other
right,
hand, can any of us really protect ourselves sometimes?
right,
Yeah. Yeah. It's a bit of an illusion,
yeah,
It empowers her to have the training, and you can always, set your intentions and call on the angels and one else that you need to protect me here, as I go through this, and not fear when I'm going forward in this, who knows where it's going, situation.
yeah,
But at least I feel that I can tell her it's good to be able to follow your gut instinct and to go forward, without fear. Because if you don't fear, then you're not opening yourself up to be able to love and to be loved and to be there, to trust people, be vulnerable,
mhm, mhm,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's just something. It seems like you already have your eye on it. They just want to bring that up as something to be aware of.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. Well, Sara, thank you so much. This was I feel like you asked me one question and we just kept talking. Um, but thank you so much for being on the podcast, and I hope this was helpful.
Yes, it was, Amy. It was.
Awesome.
Good to
Have a
process
great
out loud,
day.
always. You too. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.